cold as a razor blade, as tight as a tourniquet, like the skin on a dying man. I don't want a piece of the world. I want the whole world. I make my own rules because it's much easier that way. Trust me.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo. We are back for another episode of The Snake Pit, and of course, I am joined by the master of the DDT himself, fresh back from the UK, Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake, it's 2 weeks in a row now you're getting to see me. I'm sure this is a big relief for you.
It's causing problems.
Well, I see that you're mimicking my look, so you're picking up some stuff from me. I can tell. All right, let's get a look at that hat. I've only seen the back of it. What do you have there? I can't make it out. What does that say, Jake?
I don't know. Oh, legend.
Legends. All right, that's pretty appropriate. Pretty appropriate. And man, we're taking another look back at your legendary career today. Man, it's another look back to Mid-South. And as most of our listeners know, if you've been a listener all along, we started that story last year, and we started it in July. So we started with July 1985, and now we're getting to the tail end of that story, which this month is going to include May of 1985 and what was going on with you there. And brother, there's a ton to talk about from this month. I can't wait to get into it as you start to kind of edge your way toward this this situation with Muhammad Ali. To close out the month of April, you're actually going to have a match with Ric Flair, which I thought the only one that you had with him that year was in November of 1985, but it turns out you did it here at the end of April with the world title on the line in Oklahoma City. You're also involved. Do you remember this match?
Sure do.
And so you and I have talked about Nate a few times here before on the show, and I know that you like and respect Nate and think he's a great worker and all of the above. However, I know that you don't necessarily hold him in the same regard as you hold a lot of other workers who are, considered the top guys of the era. What is it about Rick that you feel kind of sets him below some of the other guys that you hold in such high regard?
It's probably because I didn't work with him much.
Okay.
It's probably a lot of it. I remember that the match in Oklahoma City. I remember it quite well. I dropped him with a DDT before the match even started.
Really?
Yeah.
And the idea being that you had him beat, but they haven't rung the bell yet?
That's it.
I love that idea, and it's such a cool, unique way to do it. And it's interesting to think of what a program between yourself and Ric Flair could have looked like.
It could have been awesome, I think.
I think so too. If not here, like the WWF, you were running as a baby face, he had come in as a heel. Like there were a few opportunities for you guys to cross paths in that way, and it just never came to fruition for whatever reason.
Happened, man. It should have.
You're also involved in a tournament for the Mid-South Television Championship, and as a reminder, Terry Taylor vacated the title after defeating Ted DiBiase for the North American Heavyweight title. Let's talk about DiBiase for a second. I know that you're friends with him today, and you were kind enough to introduce me to him so that we could start our own podcast. Everybody's got a pod. But according to Jim Duggan, DiBiase ran with a different crowd back in these days, and he was more of the type to wear like a fancy suit and go out to a club than go to like a local honky tonk with the boys. Would you say that you were friends with Ted during this time or just friendly?
Just friendly.
When is it that you and Ted would have become closer friends?
The WWF.
Okay, just kind of running in the same circles. You guys were both heels and got to spend more time around each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Ted was viewed by many as one of the best technical wrestlers in the world during this time. It's interesting going back and reading his match reviews because pretty much all of them get rave reviews. Did you feel that way about Ted and his work?
Yeah, he was a great mechanic.
Now, did you view Ted as like main event type guy or not quite there?
He was main eventer.
He was damn good, and I'm trying to put the pieces together on how many times you and Ted would have been around each other. I know that for sure you would have been around him in Georgia, certainly here in Mid-South, but like, was Georgia the first time that you would really cross his path?
No, I met DiBiase years ago, back before I was even wrestling.
When you were a
I
ref?
was a ref, and I refereed some of his matches.
And if I remember right, you guys had an interesting little run-in.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he punched you, right?
yeah. He tried to knock my ass out.
Man, it's interesting talking to Ted now because he's like such a very soft-spoken, like kind of a gentle person, but like, just one of those guys. He's kind of raised in the business and he knew when to take matters into his own hands, so to speak.
Yep,
And you DQ'd him for it too, right?
sure did.
That'll show him. In the second round of the television title tournament held on April 24th, you'd work with Brad Armstrong, and Brad is often characterized as one of the best workers inside the ring, and of course, he's one of the sons of the legendary Armstrong family. What'd you think of Brad and his ring skills?
Oh, Brad was tremendous, tremendous. Uh, Working with him was a dream. Uh, and later on, I would show you what I thought of him by putting the North American title on him
Mm-hmm.
in Georgia Championship Wrestling. But no, Brad was a pleasure to work with, like a breath of fresh air.
Just like smooth. That's always the word that comes to mind whenever I watch one of his matches. There's no fat on it. Everything he does is just precise and clean, and it's hard to criticize that guy in any of his ring work.
It certainly is.
Now, the one criticism that does come up with Brad Armstrong all the time whenever his name comes up is how he did on the mic. Do you think that criticism of Brad is fair?
Yes, I do.
I mean, just lacked the charisma, or like did he seem like he was nervous on the mic, or in your experience as a great promo guy, what do you think he was missing there?
Repetition. I think if he'd have been forced to work on the mic more, he could have gotten better.
Now, he's one of those guys too. Behind the scenes, everybody talks about how funny he was and what a great guy he was to be around behind the scenes. Did you have much of a relationship with Brad outside of the ring?
Not at the time.
But it grew later.
Yeah, it grew later in Georgia.
Now, we hear all the time that those boys and even Bullet himself could be crazy. Did you spend much time around the Armstrong family as a whole?
Sure as hell did.
All right, please regale us with one of those tales.
Oh man, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Some things are best left unsaid.
Well, I'll say a few things as an outsider, and you can choose to comment on them if you want to. Rumor has it that Bob Armstrong, what a legendary performer this guy was, and very, very well known in his territory. But rumor has it that he was no stranger to the booger sugar every once in a while. Jake, did you ever enjoy any extracurriculars with Bullet?
Sure did. Yep.
I want to ask you to expand on it, but I don't know if you will or not. No, I guess I couldn't blame you if you didn't.
No, I'm not going to go ahead and beat that horse, man. It's out there. Everybody knows it.
Yep. Now, Brian Armstrong is the other one I wanted to ask you about. He wasn't a wrestler at this time, but have you spent much time around Brian?
No, I didn't.
It's funny because I've gotten to know him personally, and he's one of the funniest people I've met in wrestling. And so it's kind of like I never had the pleasure of meeting Brad, but I imagine that the two share a sense of humor.
Yeah, they did.
All right, you defeat Brad in this match and move on in the tournament. And TV was recorded at the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana, which was a regular stop during the Mid South Loop. Fans write in all the time to the show and ask about your experiences in the various cities you visited. So, Jake, what can you tell us about Shreveport and the Irish McNeil's Boys Club?
Oh my God, what a shithole. It was a boys' club, all right. I don't know what year it was a boys' club, but it was. It was a rough building. No bells and whistles. Certainly no bells and whistles. Certainly no air conditioning.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a sweat box.
Now, how about Shreveport itself? You know, we always hear one of the things that all the wrestlers that work in Mid South always tend to tell me is that, like, yeah, they were driving, daiquiri places and stuff that you could go to in Louisiana, and a lot of fun and crazy times to be had. Shreveport, Jake, what can you tell us about times there?
Shreveport was a rough town. You had to be careful there.
Really, kind of
You
dangerous.
know, yeah, it was dangerous. It was rough and it was rowdy and it was dangerous. I think the wrestlers got kicked out of most places.
So you guys brought a little rowdiness with you too.
Yeah, there were some groups, such as Hacksaw and Hercules Hernandez. Hercules was good to bust up a place. So was Dr. Death Steve Williams and the Freebirds. Yeah.
So I do a podcast with Jim as well called The Hacksaw Hour. It's available exclusively on YouTube. And Jim always talks about how he was running around with guys like Gordy and those guys that you mentioned. Like he was always hanging around with them, and the crazy shit that they would get into, and like the kind of fights that they would have, and how drunk everybody would get, and those wild times. Jake, during this time, are you hitting the bars with that group of guys?
Hell no. I was afraid to.
Would you characterize yourself as more of like a loner? Like, were you on the road by yourself a lot, or were you going out and kind of hanging with the boys a lot?
I was a loner.
Why is that? You just prefer spending the time on your own?
I can argue with myself and not get into trouble. I just, especially Shreveport. I think Shreveport's more dangerous than New Orleans.
No shit, that bad there.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's dangerous.
I guess especially you going around as a heel too. It's you could really get yourself into a pinch.
Sure as hell can. I know I got beat up by a midget in Shreveport.
Well, holy shit, let's talk about that.
Yeah, she hit me right in my nuts. Punched me in my nuts, man.
So this was a female too.
Yes,
What did you do to incite this young lady's rage, Jake?
I have no idea. Maybe because I looked her over. Maybe it's because I overlooked her.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know, man, but she punched me right in my nuts and dropped me to my knees.
Is this at a bar or at a wrestling event?
At the bar.
Oh my gosh. Tell me that the boys weren't there to see that happen.
They were
Oh, how bad were you getting ribbed after that?
a lot.
I cannot begin to imagine. All right, fuck Shreveport.
Uh,
Don't go out there.
I learned my lesson.
A dangerous city, plus some bad memories there for Jake. It would appear.
Yeah, some bad memories.
Um, Up next, you worked a series of tag team matches with the Barbarian, and of course, we've spoken about Barb here on the show on a few occasions. But two specific pairings stand out for me. The first of these Jake, is you and the Barbarian taking on Jim Duggan and Brad Armstrong in a couple matches back in the first part of May. And Brad is certainly known as a great worker, and Jim himself has said that he's more of a brawler than he is a wrestler. He likes to punch and kick more than he does wrestle.
His technique is left or right. Punch, left punch or right punch. That's what you got.
Now, what do you think about pairing two contrasting styles, like a technician like Brad and a brawler like Jim? Does that complement each other?
In an odd way. In an odd way. It could be interesting.
I guess, like most things, it kind of depends on how you do it, right?
Yep.
Now, for you personally, Jake, what style would you prefer to get into the ring with? More of a technician or more of a guy that you're going to be able to tell a story with, like Jim?
Technician. Yeah, I can do it with either one.
It's you had really polished your technical skills by this point as well. Meaning, like, you were able to do like a lot of the interesting transition type things, and kind of go hold for hold with people. And it makes me wonder, Jake, when do you feel like you got that part of your repertoire sort of dialed in?
In the early '80s, probably
Okay,
'82.
so maybe during your first run in Mid South.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I polished up then.
We've talked about Jim on a number of occasions on the show, and I'm sure we'll talk about him more. But I'm curious. Jim has told me that DiBiase influenced him a lot when it came to learning more about how to work. Did you ever offer Jim any advice?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so.
He's one of those guys. He doesn't necessarily need to be a technician. He's a big guy. He's burly, and it sort of makes sense for him to be a brawler. But that being said, anybody needs to benefit from the psychology of pro wrestling. So I would imagine that that's an area where you'd kind of be like, hey Jim, maybe kind of think about doing it this way.
Yeah, the psychology is where I would have helped him.
This second run for you in Mid South, was this your first time around Hacksaw? Do you recall?
I believe it was. I
I'm
can't be
trying.
sure on that, but I believe it was.
I'm thinking back on both of your career timelines, and I know that he would like drop by Georgia at one point while you were there, but I think consistently you being around Jim, it probably would have been this time.
Yeah, it was this time.
So I mean, he's a big, charismatic, boisterous guy. Did you hit it off with Jim right out of the gate?
Yeah, right away, man. We were tight right away. We got along good together.
It's cool that he was able to kind of follow in your footsteps on the way to the WWF, and you guys could continue to travel together and have some fun. And it's interesting listening to Jim and him tell all these stories, because it's kind of it's fun insight to hear what you guys would get into every once in a while when you're on the road.
Yeah, we stepped in shit a few times.
Okay, guys, let's take a quick break to talk about our great sponsor, a sponsor whose products I use all the time and have absolutely fallen in love with. We are talking about Mando. So, guys, summer is here, and if you're like me, it is already jam-packed. You know where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, no weekends available. There is a lot going on, and brother, let me tell you, all that travel, you are going to need a strong deodorant to get you through those long days at the airport, driving, how about just visiting places, seeing the world's largest cheese wheel, whatever it is you're up to. You are going to have to stay on top of your personal hygiene routine and make sure that you aren't out there smelling awful. For me personally, I've started this wrestling training, and brother, every time I walk out of that place, I'm smelling like the monkey house at the zoo. I need something to help me out, to help me get over that hump and get myself smelling the way that I want to smell, and more importantly, the way I know my wife wants me to smell. And that is where Mando comes in. So I know that a lot of you are just audio listeners only, but if you're a YouTube listener, I got to show you this thing. I showed it last time we talked about Mando, and it is my favorite product that they offer. This is the Mando acidified body wash with a bourbon leather smell to it, and I use this all the time. I'm gonna reload on it. Mando's kind enough to send me these products, but I want more. I want to get like a back stock of this product, because let me say, my wife loves the smell. I love the smell. As I mentioned before, it'll be like 6 hours, 8 hours later, doesn't matter. I smell like that all that time later after my shower. It's not something you spray on yourself, nothing like that. You just use it like a body wash, and the smell stays with you and is absolutely incredible and fights bad odor. So I can't recommend it strongly enough, and I hope that you guys will check it out. And as a matter of fact, one of the guys that's training me over there at this school, his name is Craig. I hooked him up with some of this stuff, and he's been singing the praises too. So seriously, this is kind of a unanimous thing among people that I know who have personally used Mando. This product is phenomenal. So if you're looking to smell great all summer, look no further than Mando. Mando's array of odor controlling solutions ensure you'll be fresh from head to toe. The solid stick and invisible cream tube control odor for 72 hours, but you can start odor control in the shower with the 4-in-1 cleansing bar and acidified body wash that I just mentioned, which helps to stop odor before it even starts. The best part is they all fit into your carry-on. All the liquids in the starter pack are 3.4 ounces, and with the deodorant wipes, you can freshen up on the go. Those deodorant wipes are something else, make your life so convenient. And if you've ever been out and about and all of a sudden you smell like a little funk, now you've got a solution for it with these really convenient, easy to carry around deodorant wipes. We all know how frustrating it can be to be going through the airport and you've got to get everything checked and you've got to make sure that you've got everything. I mean, seriously, guys, all you need with Mando is some clean underwear and their products, and you're set for any adventure and ready to go wherever the summer takes you. Mando is truly a travel essential. Here's what else sets Mando apart is that this isn't just like for your armpits. Mando is safe to use absolutely anywhere on your body. So pits, packages, grundles and balls, belly button, butt cracks, stinky crevices, stomach folds, feet, you name it. If it's on your body, you can use Mando there. The product was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Mando Whole Body Deodorant is powerful enough for the toughest body odor, but gentle enough to use everywhere, allowing you to put Mando on your family jewels without any worry because Mando is aluminum-free, baking soda-free, cruelty-free, dye-free, and vegan. Clinically proven to control body odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was like a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average grundle odor is a 0 out of 10. It's time for you guys to come to understand what I have learned firsthand. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Luckily, I have a discount code too, so I can get you guys hooked up on one of my favorite smelling whole body deodorants on the market. New customers get $5 off this starter pack with mine and Jake's exclusive offer. That equates to over 40% off of the starter pack. Use code SNAKE at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Again, use that code SNAKE. I can guarantee that you guys are going to like this product. Seriously, if you don't believe me, try it once, and if it doesn't work for you or you don't like it for whatever reason, don't get it again. But I know you're not going to feel that way. Seriously, firsthand experience, I love Mando's product. I know that you're going to love it too. Again, use our code SNAKE, SNAKE, at shopmando.com. Well, you and Barb would win the match, and soon after, you'd be working against the Mid-South Tag Team Champions, the Rock and Roll Express. Before talking... Yep. And dude, I can't wait to talk to you about this because I know that there's a story or two. Before talking about the Rock and Roll Express, on behalf of the Snake Pit and One True Sport, we do want to express our sympathies and support to Ricky Morton, who announced that his eldest son had passed away unexpectedly. So Ricky and his family are all in our prayers. Jake, I don't know if you heard about that or not.
No, I did. When did that happen?
This was here last week. And yeah, unfortunately, not his son Kerry, who's coming up in wrestling right now, but his oldest son, unfortunately passed away. So yep, prayers up for Ricky Morton, who unbelievable talent and a great guy. I've had the pleasure of being around him a few times myself.
I hate to hear that for him, man.
Awful. I can't begin to imagine. But we'll try to get back on track a little bit. Last time we talked about Mid-South, you mentioned that Terry Taylor likely had a hard time sticking around the main event due to his size and some of the cute moves that he liked to do. And, you know, Ricky and Robert were both fairly small and had their fair share of cute shit that they like to do in the ring, but they got over. What would you say was the major difference between the two?
Their stuff got over. They're piss people off. No, it's a funny question to ask, man. I don't really know how to answer it. But I'll tell you this. Whenever it was time for me and Barbarian, Robert and Ricky came to me and go, brother, please keep him out of the ring. Don't let him touch us. he'll hurt us. And I said, I tell you what, I'll keep him out of the ring as long as y'all don't do that cute shit. And that was the deal. So I went in and started the match, and we got about 7 minutes in, and Ricky did a cute move. I just walked over and tagged and pointed at them and said, kill. And he ran across the ring and just glommed both of them.
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, he was tossing them around like pinballs, man. They didn't have a chance.
What's the conversation with them like afterwards? Like, I told you motherfuckers not to get cute out there.
That's exactly what it was. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I fucked up. I'm sorry. Yeah, you fucked up, all right. Now look what you got.
Man, a big road grader kind of a guy in Barb who's green, still pretty green at the time, and was kind of just running through folks, wasn't he?
Yeah, he just freight train your ass, man. Just freight train. Chance for prayer, nothing, man.
And Ricky and Robert are not huge guys. On the other side, Nord is what, like 6'8"?
Yeah, he's 6'8", 310 pounds.
Well, not a man to piss with, and I know that you and Ricky and Robert and John were all out on the road doing some matches here and there, and I think that there was really only one TV match, and I've got the clip for us. It's our only clip this week, and let's have a look at how they fare against the big man and yourself. All right, shooting off Robert. Ooh, a boot to the gut. Nah, taunting Ricky Morton a little bit. Popping Robert. He takes a nice bump there. Oh boy. You're teasing Barb. And I'm sure that these two are just quaking. Here we go. Barb is coming in to wreck everybody. I think you just said sick 'em. Here we go. Barb's got him hoisted up and a big body slam. My goodness. What a monster he is. Another one for Robert. Poor Robert. He's looking to make a tag. Another body slam. He's down. Ooh, Barb. Looks like he misses the elbow, but Robert sold it anyways. Tags you in. I'm sure those guys are relieved. And now you're there to pick up the pieces against Robert. I love it. Scrubbing his face and taunting him. But again, these fans are they're chanting DDT right now. It's incredible. As you're in there kind of harassing Robert and Ricky, the fans are sort of behind you, even though you're being a clear-cut heel. Oh, arm drag from Robert. There we go. He's fighting back. Makes a tag to Ricky. Shoots you off. You reverse him. He jumps over. When you turn around, there it is. Double drop kick. Here comes Barb. He takes a double drop kick. Bumps on his butt. Shooting off Ricky. Duck down. Oh, and he gets tied up in the ropes like a hangman thing. That's what tore off Mick Foley's ear. And you're taking full advantage. Beating on him. Looks like the ref is throwing out the match. Oh, yes. A couple guys are on the outside, making it worse for Ricky, not letting him put his feet down to free himself. You nail Robert in the background there with the DDT, but the match is over. Here we go. You know, Jake, the thing that really stuck out to me watching back the clip of you, Ricky, Robert, and Barb was that I believe that this is the first time I'm hearing fans do the DDT chant. And as a reminder, Ricky and Robert are two of the top baby faces in all of wrestling. You're a hated heel, but the audience wants to see you do your finishing maneuver. What's interesting is you had been doing the DDT for a few years by this point, but you were a heel in every territory where you had been using it prior. Was Mid-South the first territory where fans began to cheer you on despite your heel status?
Yes. Sure was.
What did you think of it when it first started happening? Like, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I say it's a good thing. Some people say it's a bad thing. But to me, as long as you got the people chanting or saying something, you're doing something right. So, what the hell?
It's interesting because wrestling is such a reaction-based business. You want to get a rise out of the fans one way or the other. You want them to love you or hate you. Your objective as a heel, though, is to come out there and have them hate your guts. So it's got to be like at least a little bit deflating. Like, stop cheering me.
Sure.
I'm trying to piss you off.
Yeah, it was. It was. It hurt. It frustrated me. Yeah, I got angry. But what are you going to do, man?
I know that you were helping Watts with some of the booking at the
Yeah,
time. You're starting to hear this? I'd imagine like you're a smart guy. You're probably thinking to yourself like, okay, maybe I need to turn.
yeah, that's what I did think. I knew that a turn was down the road some. I figured it'd be with Barbarian.
And that's exactly how it went down. If you guys recall our previous episode where we talked about Barb turning on Jake and Jake, he's off to the races. Because yeah, it was becoming undeniable. Like you couldn't mask it on TV. These chants were too damn loud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jake, can you recall another instance prior to this where a heel who was not attempting to turn babyface was getting a babyface reaction from audiences?
No,
I was racking my brain too, and I can't come up with one.
no.
So, in theory, really, you might have been the first anti-hero in professional wrestling.
Probably was.
That's a formula that Stone Cold Steve Austin would go on and use, the NWO would go on and use. And honestly, I want our listeners to write in. If you can think of another instance prior to this, by all means, correct us. I'm going to go on record and say I think that Jake the Snake Roberts was the first ever anti-hero in professional wrestling, which is a pretty awesome footnote.
Yeah, it is, man. Thank you.
The Rock and Roll is a top draw here in Mid South, but they'll be in JCP the next month or so. Do you have any recollection on why they would have left for the Carolinas?
It was time. They had their
Right.
run in the South.
Just a fresh coat of paint, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. They needed some fresh stuff.
You know, I know that Watts wasn't shy about paying people, and it seemed like they had pretty good creative. That's why it stuck out to me. Like, okay, you guys are kind of positioned on top, and probably making fairly decent money. Like, why move on? It's ultimately a good thing they did, but still, it's just I don't know. It was very puzzling.
It was time. If you'd been there, you would have seen it.
Just a matter of like, you stay in one territory too long in those days, and you kind of overstay your welcome.
Yeah, they were close to that.
Up next, you'll lose in the television title finals to the Snowman. This would, of course, be the beginning of the storyline that would lead to your altercation with Muhammad Ali, which we dedicated an entire episode to back near the beginning of the podcast. The Snowman, like Butch Reed, was someone Bill Watts hoped to push to take the place of the Junkyard Dog. Jake, wrestling fans have heard these stories for years, where Bill Watts was seemingly hell bent on finding an African American wrestling champion.
Yeah.
I'll ask this bluntly: was race a key component here for getting the territory to rebound?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
You think they needed an African American champion?
they needed a black, strong baby face. Snowman wasn't it. He tried with Butch Reed too. So
Now, why do you think an African American component as a strong top baby face was so important in Mid South?
well, because your crowd was so divided. You know, um, the black community, man, was big, and that was your bread and butter. I mean, think about it: Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma.
You're right. A lot of diversity, and that means that they're gonna want somebody that they can sympathize with and get behind, which I believe was the idea behind Pedro Morales in New York. There was a large Hispanic community there, so they're like, "Well, we better get behind this guy," and they did.
They did.
Well, this will be my last question. We'll wrap this one up. Jake, I love getting your take on hypothetical questions, and here's
Yeah,
one that I think you're really well suited for with your knowledge of booking and what does or doesn't work. If Watts had turned to you and said, "Okay, Jake, I'm giving you full control. Find me the next star for the territory to kind of restore it to its former glory when JC or JYD was here," who do you think is the performer you would have looked to rebound the territory?
God, man. Wow. It wouldn't have been Snowman.
No.
No. I think I would have turned Kamala babyface.
Whoa. Now that could have been something. Would you have renamed him Sugar Bear?
No, but I could have.
Because, like, I don't know if people would sympathize with the Ugandan giant, but if he's Sugar Bear Harris out there throwing down and getting the fans behind him, could have really been something interesting.
Could have been interesting, but I left him as Kamala.
I guess he's got the name identity with Kamala by that point. Why not use it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned it with Snowman. He's not long for this world. He's only going to be in the territory about 4 months before moving on after dropping the TV title to Dutch Mantel. So here's the guy. He's got this big high-profile spot with Muhammad Ali, big win at the Superdome over you. He's just here and gone. Jake, do you know why the Snowman was just eliminated from Mid South so fast?
Well, he was that good.
The guy couldn't work. Yeah.
You got that right.
Oh man, brutal. And you know what? We talked about, as I mentioned, we talked about the Muhammad Ali situation, but we really focused in on Muhammad and what your experience was like there. I think we're gonna wrap up the story of your second run in Mid South next month. We'll talk about June on the whole and really kind of dive into it and get all the details. But Jake, always fun to catch up with you and certainly fun to take a look back here. It's now 39 years to your second run and final run in Mid South Wrestling.
Wow. Seems like yesterday.
Well, I love getting to go over it with you, and next week we'll be going over more. And until then, brother, I'll look forward to chatting with you again.
Take care, bro.
Okay, guys, that time of the show, I want to remind you all before you go that if you want to attract that 25 to 54-year-old male demographic, the wrestling demographic, if you will, to your product or service, you've got to hit advertise with snake.com and make Jake the Snake Roberts your tag team partner. Jake is still on TV, just re-signed with AEW, still out meeting fans across the pond and locally, and you can get him to put over your product to that demographic. If you want some evidence that it works, just listen to our show, pal. We routinely advertise for the same businesses because once they advertise with us and our super targeted audience, they come to learn that what we do here works. Head to advertisewithsnake.com and team up with the Hall of Famer Jake Roberts. JakeTheSnakeShop.com has got all kinds of goodies and collectibles straight from the man himself. We all used to have that wrestling buddy when we were kids. We used to beat up on him in our bedroom. Our parents would come and yell at us about suplexing guys onto our beds and whatnot. Well, maybe you can't get your hands on the original one, but Jake has got an updated version of that very action figure. And by the way, it's available signed. So all you've got to do to get your hands on it is head over to advertisewithsnake.com and add a new centerpiece to your wrestling collection straight from Jake the Snake Roberts. Cameo.com/Jake Snake is where you want to go if you want a personal message, a promo, a birthday wish, a roast, or if you just want to say hi to the legendary Jake Roberts. Here's a recent review from Matt. Jake the Snake Roberts is awesome. He gives Cameo the DDT. Short and sweet from Matt, but he said it all right there. Jake absolutely nails it on these. Go and take a look at his reviews, and you're going to find out that Matt's thoughts on Jake's Cameo are just kind of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how satisfied people have been every time they turn to Jake for one of these. So do yourself a favor. If you love Jake, if you've been a fan of his, and you want something that you can show all your buddies and kind of keep in a file for the rest of your life, you've got to get a Cameo. It's cameo.com/Jake Snake. Order yours right now. Well, we put it over on the last show, and we'll talk to you guys about it again now. If you want more of a personalized experience with Jake the Snake Roberts, including bonus content, opportunities for Q&As with Jake, where you can actually ask him a question, he'll see your face, and you guys can communicate back and forth a little bit, the place to go back and do that is OneTrueSportTV.com. So that's our YouTube page, and what we have over there is tiers of a YouTube membership. And those tiers, we've got 3 of them. They're titled Contender at the $7.99 per month level, Workhorse at the $24.99 per month level. And if you really want to get everything that we have to offer at One True Sport, you've got to sign up at the Traveling Champion level for the low price of just $39.99. So that includes all kinds of great stuff. As a matter of fact, as this episode comes out yesterday, Dustin Rhodes was there talking to our traveling champions in a Q&A. And that's just the start. This is our first month, and the first guest that we got to do a Q&A is the legendary Dustin Rhodes. You guys have got to go over there and become a traveling champion and start to really enjoy all of this stuff. By the way, we also have a lot of really cool shirts at onetruesport.com. We've got some great options for Jake. And as a matter of fact, we just came out with the one that we kind of teased on a previous episode about Jake's time in Japan, where he very briefly wore face paint. You guys have got to get over there and see this stuff. Not only Jake's merchandise, but we're talking about Ted DiBiase, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Arn Anderson, Magnum TA, Greg Gagne, and more. We're also going to do a monthly guest spotlight where we're going to bring somebody on who has nothing to do with the network, and we're going to spotlight them with some incredible original merchandise that's only available for that month. So seriously, guys, we're doing some really big things with One True Sport, and we want you guys to be part of it. Go become a member at onetruesporttv.com and go out of your way to check out the merchandise at onetruesport.com. Let's have some fun and make these podcasts a little bit more interactive for all of you great listeners. Check Jake and I out on YouTube at youtube.com/@SnakePitPod. We've got short clips from the show. We've got highlights. We've got exclusive content. Very recently, I was on there live with Lance Archer answering fan questions. So this was not part of One True Sport. You don't have to be a member to do it. Lance just comes on with me once a month, and he and I BS and have fun and talk to fans. And we want you to be part of it. I want you to get over there and get subscribed. Only takes you a second, and you'll have access to all kinds of great content. I've been updating that page since late 2022, and I've added thousands of videos for you guys to check out. So if you don't have the time to always do like the full podcast and you just want to hit the highlights, that's the spot for it. Not to mention, again, we brought Lance on as a special Q&A guest live, and there's going to be more. So please, guys, go and check it out. Does Jake and I a big favor over there on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@SnakePitPod. Hey, speaking of YouTube, I've got to put over my other podcasts. Everybody's Got a Pod and the Hacksaw Hour with Ted DiBiase and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, respectively. They are both contributing original content to that page, and you do not want to miss out on these two unique Hall of Fame perspectives. And by the way, Jim's podcast is available exclusively on that YouTube channel. So if you want to hear the Hacksaw Hour and listen to Jim's great stories and see his incredible charismatic personality bloom, it's right there and only there on the YouTube page. And Jim is also providing videos of his day-to-day activities, and we're going to continue to update those. Seriously, there's just so much great fun to be had over there. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it, especially if you enjoy what we're doing here on the Snake Pit. You can go over there. It's youtube.com/@everybody's-got-a-pod. Also, if you've enjoyed the Snake Pit, please take a second. It doesn't take you very long. Just like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on your podcast app. That does Jake and I a major favor. And as always, guys, you can catch Jake on X at JakeSnakeDDT, on Instagram at JakeTheSnakeDDT, and on Facebook at Real Jake the Snake. You can follow me at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X, and you can follow the podcast at Snake Pit Pod on all social media platforms. Man, looking back at Jake in Mid-South, it's been covered here and there, but Jake and I are really doing the full deep dive, like the comprehensive edition of his second run in Mid-South. It's been really fascinating. I'm excited to wrap that story up. And by the way, we're not done with Mid-South, because Jake did have a first run in Mid-South, and we haven't talked about it hardly at all here on the show yet. So we're going to do a deep dive on that one down the road, so stay tuned for that. And again, I want to thank you guys, and hope I'll catch you next week right here on the Snake Pit.